So you can't decide between an SUV and a ute. Well, Chinese Newcomer Deepal reckons it has the solution, and this is it. It's called the E07. It's a large 5-seater, but it's got a really cool party trick. Press a button and watch this thing transform. So we're going for this sleek sort of sport back type of look to something that is a lot more like a ute. And the idea is that you can load this thing up, I can fold the back seats down, I can turn it into something that can carry all sorts of stuff. I can even sleep in the back. And that is why they call this thing the multi-truck. So that rear setup, that transformer system at the back there, that is the party trick with the E07. And it's seriously impressive in terms of what it does. It is incredible. There's so many electric motors and so on working to automatically open all sorts of things, from the tailgate to the glass partition between the boot and the back seats, the rear glass that folds back or slides backwards and forwards, all this sort of stuff going on, and really clever the way it does it. Doesn't obviously end up being a full ute. You're not going to go chucking all your work gear and everything necessarily in there, but it's amazingly functional, amazingly practical for someone who wants something a little bit different. And that is basically the start of a massive long list of equipment for this car. It gets heated and ventilated seats, not just in the front, but in the rear. Massaging seats, not just the front, but also in the rear. Obviously a huge center screen, 15.4 inches, and you can tilt it between the driver and the passenger, and also have all sorts of functionality in there. Not perfect. I would love a volume dial. It's got the usual thing of packing so much into the screen that you need to know your way around it. You need to figure out what's going on there. But once you get there, there's heaps of functionality. And you can tailor all sorts of different modes. So you can have camp mode, for example, and set the whole car up with one touch of a button. And there's all sorts of things you can program into that, what you want set up for this car, from the ambient lighting and the ventilation to exactly where you want the seats to flip and fold. So pretty clever stuff, all relying on a lot of software, obviously. Now, what does it drive like? Well, nothing like a normal ute. This thing is far more like a regular EV. It is a pure battery electric vehicle. You can either get a rear wheel drive version or an all-wheel drive version. All-wheel drive obviously adds a second motor. Both of them get the same level of gear, the same high level of standard equipment, but the dual motor one, it gets a lot more thrust, so you're talking heaps more grunt, 0 to 100 in a little bit under 4 seconds. Pretty quick for such a big heavy thing. Speaking of which, this thing's around about 2.4 tons. Now payload, you're looking at 610 kilograms, so it's not a 1-tonner, but still fairly useful. It can tow up to 1.5 tons, so again, most utes, 3.5 tons. This one 1.5 tons, not quite going to get the job done for some people, but that's not what this car is about. Underneath, you've got more of a skateboard-like architecture. So you've got the battery pack built into the floor, independent suspension front and rear. So on the road, it's actually quite composed. Again, nothing like a normal ute. Performance-wise, well, that's going to blow off just about every ute on the market. That is seriously quick. And it's also pretty comfortable. It's riding on air suspension, so it's really quite supple. You can go in and adjust drive modes and tinker around with that, but in its regular comfort mode, it's pretty amazing in terms of the plushness of it. Riding on 21-inch tyres, so occasionally you get a bit of a jolt from those over some sorts of bumps, but generally pretty nicely done. As for the body control, it is not quite as slick. This car is heavy and you feel it, 2.4 odd ton. It's actually quite a large vehicle, and you get that sitting in here, the size of it, the width of the dash and everything, it's a reminder that this thing is quite chunky. And it feels it. When you start to ask it to change direction, you can feel that it's, fighting back a little bit. The steering hasn't got a whole lot of feedback. The body control sometimes isn't where it needs to be, but generally, again, we're comparing it here to regular utes, it's a lot better than those. But I would say most people looking to buy this thing are probably also looking at the SUV market, looking at that SUV side of things, and that's where you come up against much stiffer competition. So of course, value plays into this. How much is this thing? Well, it starts at $64,900 plus on road costs. That's for the rear wheel drive. You then step up to the all wheel drive and add that extra motor, and you're looking at an extra $8,000 for that. Both of them get a battery that's just under 90 kilowatt hours in capacity. So in terms of range, the claimed range for the base car is 550 kilometers, and for the all wheel drive, 510. Pretty good. And it can do a 30 to 80% charge in as little as 15 minutes. So from a battery electric vehicle perspective, this thing does a lot right. The challenge is, who is it going to appeal to? Deepal likes to say everyone. They want to get everyone from tradies who don't necessarily need a hardcore ute to maybe people who like a bit of sport, surfing and so on the weekend and want a bit of a lifestyle vehicle, to families who want some comfort but also that extra functionality. So it's a very broad range. It's Probably going to end up being a little bit of a niche vehicle in terms of its appeal, but either way, it is something a little bit different. So is it a ute or is it an SUV? Well, I'd say it's more SUV than ute for sure, but having that sort of extra load functionality, that flexibility, being able to open that back end up a bit and leave it to the open air and potentially stack things a bit higher, that is so different. It's something pretty unique in this market, but it's certainly closer to an SUV in terms of the way it goes about its business. So that is the E07, the multi-truck as they call it. What's it like? Well, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It's not perfect. The driving dynamics and so on take a little bit of adjustment. It certainly feels big and heavy, but it does something that no other ute on the market does. It's got this real cool factor to it, and I think that alone is going to draw some people in. That said, anyone who likes those traditional utes, your Rangers and HiLuxes and so on, it may not quite appeal to them. It's not going to do the utey things that a lot of people expect. Towing heavy loads, carrying heavy things, going hardcore off-roading. But it's something different, and for that, I reckon that's great.